Coming up tonight on YCN News, YCN catches up with Republicans running for office in New Hampshire. A 2-alarm fire breaks out in an old home near North Main and Pleasant Streets in Newport. And this Wednesday's Game of the Week will feature the girls' soccer quarterfinal game between the Campbell Cougars and Stevens Cardinals. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening, and welcome to this Monday edition of YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. It's the last full day of campaigning before voting begins tomorrow nationwide. In the 2014 midterm elections in Vermont and New Hampshire, vote seekers continue to mine the public for votes, especially in New Hampshire. Today in the state's 3 western counties, Cheshire, Sullivan, and Merrimack, YCN News caught up with today Republicans running for office, including U.S. Senate candidate for New Hampshire, Scott Brown. Brown took a break from lunch at Village Pizza in downtown Newport.
I have a question regarding the Affordable Care Act. If it's repealed, and if that's something that you would like to do if elected, how would you replace it, especially when people are already on health insurance plans and paying for it?
Well, the question is how many are actually paying for it. I think we need to ask that. But what about the 22,000 people that actually already lost their health insurance because of Obamacare, and another 70,000 that are going to lose it after the election? There's a business mandate coming in after the election. I'm deeply concerned about them. And for the people who have insurance, we can develop a plan in our state that addresses not only catastrophic care, pre-existing coverage, pre-existing conditions, covering kids up to a certain age. What's the number? Tell me what you think is a good number. Get everybody in the same room and develop a plan that works for us. I believe people should have either access to health care or the ability to purchase health care. I've supported those plans before, but to think Obamacare is the only answer is a false premise. We can do it better, because if you look at the VA and Obamacare is the VA in a couple of years, top-heavy, bloated, broken. We can do it better. We can have competition. We can have more businesses and companies coming into the system to increase the ability for us to have better plans, and I think we should have competition.
Do you believe in single-payer insurance, as in Medicare? Is that the way for the country to move forward?
Well, I support Medicare, and the only person that's cut Medicare is Senator Shaheen when she cut $750 billion to go to Obamacare, and the response is, there were savings. Well, if there were savings, it should have been put back into Medicare to take care of the doctors and long-term and rehab facilities and end-of-life facilities that are getting squeezed dramatically right now. If you go to any one of them, they'll tell you that. So single payer, it's not something that I've supported in the past. I believe that we should have open and fair competition to drive costs down.
Okay, and my next question is, what issue concerns you that isn't getting coverage in this campaign?
Well, I think we've talked about a lot of different things, but right now in this area, it's obviously energy costs, 50 to 100% going up in the next month. Then you throw in healthcare costs. You talk to a business like this, don't believe me, ask these guys. They've told me their energy costs are going up, their health insurance costs are going up. So guess what? See those numbers right there on the as to the prices? They're also going up. And when you have that happen, what happens is less money in people's pocketbooks and wallets. I want to keep more money in people's pocketbooks and wallets. So it's energy costs, it's healthcare costs, it's the gridlock in Washington, it's our border security and the lack thereof. So there's a whole host of issues that affect everybody. Are
you confident you can go between both sides of the aisle and really help break that gridlock?
Well, I did it before. As you know, I was the most bipartisan senator, 50-50. Been like that my whole life. I'm a problem solver, as somebody who likes to go in there and roll up his sleeves and get it done. So I'm hopeful that happens, and I encourage everybody to get out. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Same you.
Traveling today with Brown were gubernatorial candidate Walt Havenstein, candidate for U.S. Representative Mary Linda Garcia, and State Senate District 8 candidate Jerry Little. As the campaign season comes to a close, YCN had a chance to become a fly on the wall during the last joint debate for New Hampshire's 8th District Senate seat. Jerry Little and Linda Tanner met at WNTK studio as Ben Sero moderated and, along with callers, questioned them on issues and what separates them. Some new ground came from a question about their support for the expansion at Mount Sunapee Resort.
Jerry, do you support the Sunapee West Bowl expansion?
Yes.
Easy enough. Linda, do you support the Sunapee West Bowl expansion?
I do. I think the ski area is fine. I think the court case that put it to the border presents some problems. I would not like to see a development of a destination ski village over along Mount Sunapee. Mount Sunapee is for the people. It's a park. It's a state park.
Okay.
Later, the question about finalizing the medical cannabis rules was posted.
You know, what surprises me is that it takes the state says it can't get medical marijuana dispensaries set up in 16 months. I've seen the state of New Hampshire get something done in 90 days that was a lot more complicated than this.
Linda, you want to rebut that last statement?
Being a legislator down there during the whole interchange about the marijuana, one of the big issues is that federally it's still an illegal drug. And so the state has a real problem setting up some sort of restriction on a drug that they shouldn't even be acknowledging in the first place. I thought the liquor stores could have, been a place to distribute marijuana, but they can't even touch it because of the federal laws.
I mean, they sell it on in storefronts in Colorado and Washington. I'm sure we can figure out a way to sell it in pharmacies in New Hampshire.
At the end of the debate, Ben invited both to make a final comment, which included,
Thank you, Ben. Linda, thank you. I mean, this has been a really good campaign. We've spent the last 3 nights, 4, including tonight, and a night last week in these forums. I think they've been really good, important for the voters, and you've been a worthy adversary, and I want to thank you for that.
Linda, 90 seconds.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. It has been a good competition. And I love competition. So it's been great. And thanks, Ben. You've been great as well.
We would like to thank Ben and WNTK for allowing our camera in for this last joint event of the District 8 campaign. We are truly lucky to have candidates that are willing to endure the grind of both the primary and then to complete the election cycle. After their hard work, we at YCN encourage you to now do your small part by going to your local voting place and casting your ballot for the candidates of your choice. Many eyes will be on the results of the U.S. Senate race in New Hampshire. Incumbent Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen and challenger Republican Scott Brown remain deadlocked over who will win, the latest New England College poll shows. Republicans in the U.S. Senate are hopeful that the GOP will gain control of the Senate if enough races result in wins for their party. The New Hampshire U.S. Senate race is among states across the nation that could tip the balance in favor of the Republicans. The House of Representatives is GOP-controlled. Republicans want to gain control of both houses for a GOP majority in Congress. Once Tuesday's results are in and tabulated, the next big political race takes place in New Hampshire, site of the first-in-the-nation primary. Early favorites in the presidential primary are Democrat Hillary Rodham Clinton, and for the GOP, Jeb Bush and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. For a link to the poll, go to our Facebook page at YCN News Now. Meanwhile, New Hampshire Attorney General Joseph Foster announced today that an election inquiry and complaint phone line will be open tomorrow and will remain open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. during the November 4th election. The line is being made available to give voters information about their rights as well as receive complaints about their right to vote. The number is 1-866-868-3703. It's becoming too much of a pattern in Newport, suspicious fires, that is. A 2-alarm fire broke out around 1:30 a.m. today in an old home near North Main and Pleasant Streets. WNTK reports the 2-story home has been vacant for a time. Earlier, power had been cut off to the home due to its vacancy. The New Hampshire Fire Marshal is investigating. There were no reports of injuries to the firefighters or anyone nearby. When YCN News returns, the Brattleboro Area Drop-In Center prepares to open its doors and serve homeless men and women.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. An accident along I-91 in Hartford, Vermont early this morning resulted in injuries to both drivers. Shortly before 2:30 a.m., a 2011 Subaru Legacy car driven by 25-year-old Zachary Beam of Bradford, Vermont, went off the roadway near the crest of a hill. Beam was driving in the left side travel lane when the car entered the median at the hilltop, struck a rock ledge, and went airborne. The car landed in the southbound side of the median. Beam's car is totaled, say police, with damage to both ends, the frame and undercarriage. The car driven by 25-year-old Benjamin Hughes of Brownsville was struck in the course of the accident. Beam's car rolled over several times, say police. A passing motorist called 911 to report the accident. Hartford Fire and EMS responded to the scene and treated both patients, taking them by ambulance to Dartmouth-Hitchcock for treatment of injuries sustained in the crash. Police say they do not know if Beam was wearing a seatbelt. The extent of his injuries remain unknown. He may have a possible neck injury. Hughes was wearing a seatbelt and suffered a shoulder injury. Road conditions were clear and dry. The cause of the crash is under investigation. With colder weather on the way, the Brattleboro Area Drop-In Center is preparing to open its doors to serve homeless men and women. The emergency winter shelter at First Baptist Church recruits volunteers to serve and cook for up to 25 people at night, the Brattleboro Reformer reports. It takes courage and willingness to volunteer, as some overnight guests are struggling with mental health or substance abuse issues. Now, the Reformer reports there's another challenge to running the emergency shelter through the winter and even into the spring. That's a financial challenge. The church may need to charge the shelter organizers a monthly rent to meet costs. For the first time in 8 years, since the Brattleboro Area Drop-In Center started the winter homeless shelter, the Reformer reports the First Baptist Church is asking for rent to use its space at 190 Main Street. First Baptist Church, which is facing very serious financial pressures of its own, is asking for $600 per month to allow some of Brattleboro's homeless residents to spend their nights in the church. First Baptist Church Board Chairwoman Karen Davis says the discussion to charge the shelter for overnight costs comes after careful and heartfelt discussion. When YCN News returns, we'll hear from Kearsarge Chronicles' Lynn Solomon, who met with Susan Warren, Executive Director of the Fells.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Now Matt McDonald will have a look at our weather for the next few days and then move on to sports.
Thanks, Rose. Tonight we have mostly clear skies with lows in the upper 20s and winds up to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow we'll have mostly sunny skies with a high of 54 degrees. Tomorrow night we'll have calm winds and mostly cloudy skies and lows in the 40s. Wednesday will be partly sunny and winds will be between 5 and 10 miles per hour. Highs will be around 58 degrees. Wednesday night will be partly cloudy with lows in the 40s. Now let's see what's coming up on our community calendar. Tomorrow in Claremont, New Hampshire, the Sullivan County Humane Society will hold a fundraising event at the Common Man Restaurant from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. In Enfield, New Hampshire, the community building will have Zumba classes from 6 to 7 p.m. At 7:30 p.m., the Lebanon Opera House will host Todd Rundgren. Remember, you can submit local events from your community by sending them to news@ycnnow.com. On Sunday, Monadnock Park was the site of the Division III girls soccer quarterfinal game between the Campbell Cougars and the host Stevens Cardinals of Claremont. It was a packed house of hearty fans on a cold, windy, late fall day. After falling behind 1-0, Kelsey Belial makes a nice feed to Caitlin Belair, who spins around and finds the corner of the goal to tie the game for Stevens late in the first half. With just 2 minutes left in the half, Desney Roy heads in this corner kick from Allison Lizotte to put the Cardinals up 2-1 going into halftime. With just over 6 minutes into the second half, Roy pounces on this rebound to give Stevens a 3-1 lead. Campbell was able to claw back into the game. Here, Hannah Need puts this left-footed bullet into the goal to tie the game with just over 12 minutes left in the contest. It looked as if the game was headed to overtime, but Jasmine Griffin heads this cross from Lizotte to put Stevens up 4-3 with just over 5 minutes to go in the game. Stevens gets an insurance goal as Allison Lizotte hammers home this rebound to put the Cardinals up 5-3 and pretty much seal the quarterfinal victory for the Happy Stevens Lady Cardinals team. As the clock ticked down, the Cardinals bench anticipated the upcoming celebration as the number 4 seeded Cardinals knocked off the number 5 seeded Campbell Cougars 5-3 to advance to the Division III semifinals on Wednesday night at Laconia, where the Lady Cardinals will take on the number 1 seeded Bow Falcons. The quarterfinal game versus Campbell will be the YCN Game of the Week and will air on Wednesday night and Thursday at 6:30 and noon. In other sports news, the Sunapee High School volleyball team won a Division IV quarterfinal match. The match was against Moultonborough and took place on Saturday. The score was 3-2. Sunapee will advance to play against Newt at Plymouth State College on Wednesday.
Thanks, Matt. When YCN News continues, we'll join Capital Connections' John O'Connor.
The YCN News continues in a moment.